Parents, what was your, oh God, I've raised a monster moment? Story 1. My daughter has always had weird interests. She asked me to show her pictures of what's in her bodies. I showed her diagrams in Google and she said, "No, I mean inside of a real body, like a deceased person." I showed her some random pictures of an arm surgery and she was begging for more. Also, she always asks me to stop so she can look at the carcasses of animals on the road. When my childhood dog passed away, she tried to sneak in and look inside the bag while I was bawling. She has never shown any signs of aggression or a desire to hurt people or animals. She's a very sweet child and doesn't even like it when we hurt bugs or cut down the weeds in her yard. She shows respect for life but is definitely interested in bodies. I'm not sure she understands what death is or what it means yet. I'm a science teacher and my wife is a nurse, so we encourage her interest in science. We're pushing it for the medical field, not the serial perpetrator field. The kid has a future in forensic science, or maybe as a future coroner. Story 2. I had this chilling conversation with my younger daughter years ago. "Mommy, do you love me?" "Of course, my darling. I love you forever and always, no matter what. Even after I end, little brother's name." My response to her was, "I would still love you, but my heart would also be broken because I love him too, and I would be so sad every day if he wasn't here with us." I gently asked her things to trigger her talking about what she loved about him and what she was looking forward to being able to teach him when he got a bit older. It ended up being a more positive conversation, despite the chilling start. She had a sweet as pie smile on her face and a serious look in her eye. At the time, he had recently turned to tie knots and I'd already had to take her jump ropes away as I'd found her with one tied around her little brother, pretending he was her horsey. They're now older, so clearly he's survived being her younger brother this far. She does love him dearly, but sibling rivalry and frustration occurs sometimes. At that age, she loved to question me about everything, so I don't think she was formulating a plan to end him so much as to ask me just how much I loved her. Certainly, I took away all the jump ropes, sashes, etc. for a year or two until she got over the knot-tying obsession. Story 3. Not the mom, but the aunt. My sister's older girl is a saint, but the little one is a psychopath, and my sister and brother-in-law indulge in every crazy behavior of hers. One of the worst was last year when one of my sister's ureters broke and she had to get a tube while said uterus healed. She was pretty ill and was in the hospital for a bit more than a month. Anyway, the second night she was back home and my niece pulled the tube out, requiring her to get emergency surgery. Her excuse? She knew doing that would hurt mommy, but she, my sister, was getting so much attention from daddy since she got home. My niece thinks she deserves more. The worst part is that my sister and brother-in-law thought that was cute. The crazy part is that my older niece would have never gotten away with something like that, so I don't get why they spoil the younger one so much. I know she's my niece, but I just can't see past those behaviors, even if she is still young. Story 4. Not the parent, but my mom told me that when she was pregnant with me, my half-brother tried to convince her to swallow a blade weapon so that she would end up losing me. Then when I was young, he turned on the shower, put on a movie for me and my sister, and snuck out while he was supposed to be babysitting to go pick up his girlfriend in my dad's car, which he then wrecked. In his adult years, he harmed a Jack Russell Terrier puppy and, at one point, tried to down a bottle of melatonin. He had sent my mom a text saying that he was going to end it all because his wife was leaving, and this was like the 6th time this happened with the same wife, and my mom called 911 while driving to his house. She got there to find the ambulance drivers in the front lawn, trying not to laugh too loudly. That's not his only case of car-related stupidity. He also had to go to the hospital after missing a jump trying to car surf in the church's parking lot. And when he got his inheritance from his biological father, about $60,000, he spent most of it in a '72 Charger, and paid even more to have some ridiculous custom engine put in. His family was in desperate need of a place to live, and when they got evicted, his car still didn't have seats. He went to jail for pulling a weapon on an undercover cop who had pulled him over. He fed his babies Mountain Dew. He just poured the stuff from the 2-liter bottle into the baby bottle. He was expelled from high school for taking a whiz in the water fountain. He and his wife stole the rental jukebox from their failed business, but then immediately broke it. He cuts his kids off from seeing their grandmother because she took my side after he refused to pay me $50 for fixing his laptop, which I had agreed to do in front of other family members. His wife lied to the cops and had them at my door, asking if I'd stolen it. Their children told the police officer that they had agreed to pay me but never did. Oh, I almost forgot to mention, when his biological father passed away and left him around $60,000, he wanted as much of that money as possible, so he decided to skimp on the funeral and have him cremated. His first attempt was to have the body driven to a pet crematorium because that was the lowest price he and his wife could find online. I can just imagine what the paramedics told the mother. He didn't pass away, he was just really sleepy. While the girl in the story may seem like a hopeless case, the kid in story 6 can still be saved. Story 5. I have 2 sons and they were born 4 years apart. The younger one is special. He's highly intelligent and very social, but also does a lot of deep thinking. Early one Sunday morning, he came up to me out of the blue and said, "Dad, how do ducks work?" I was all, "How to what?" "What? Ducks? Huh?" In a half-sleep state. Before I could work out what he wanted to know, he said, "I guess if I open one up, I'll find out," and walked away. I honestly spent a good hour looking for ducks and watched him carefully when he went near the kitchen utensils. There was also the time when he learned how to float in a pool after watching a documentary about shipwrecks. He could swim but never relaxed and he floated on his back. He can now. He just pretends to be an inanimate body floating away. Thanks, YouTube. Story 6. My son was eating some chocolate and I told him not to get any on the floor because Sadie, my family's dog, would eat it. Him. Then that would be the end of her? Me. Yeah. Him. Mommy, I thought you didn't like Sadie. Me. Well, yeah, I don't. Him. And you don't want her gone? Me. Well, you can dislike someone, but that doesn't mean you hate them enough that you want them gone. Him. Oh, so it's okay if you don't like someone? You don't have to end them or anything, right? Me. Right. Him. Oh, okay. Thanks, Mommy. Had he just been going around expecting to hurt people he didn't like all the time? I'll never know. Story 7. My niece. My sister is such a loser. No one wants to be around her anyway because she can't keep a man and she can't stop having kids, at least at the time. My niece is now a 29-year-old woman. She ran away from home at a young age because she was caught dancing at a local club, and she did this because my sister threw her father out of the house for not getting her tickets to see Phantom of the Opera as he promised at Christmas that year. My niece is a complete sociopath. She was caught messing around with the owner of a local pet shop because she wanted a puppy when she was young, and she decided to try to move in with him. When she got the puppy, she turned the guy in for violating her. She ran away to Florida to work in the adult film industry until she was about 24. She's back in town now, and she's too messed up to be a dancer, as she calls it. She'll tell you she works in entertainment, but she's just working as a paid model. The moment I knew she was a monster was when she was younger and my sister got divorced. My niece said, "I'll fix that stupid witch for making my daddy go away." It sounded like it was right out of that Star Trek episode of the kids who hated adults or groups. The moment it was confirmed was when my niece broke up with her last boyfriend. The guy was a solid man, a military veteran who had his life together, had a career, and loved my grandniece. You could tell he loved them and went out of his way for them. I talked to him once at Christmas and he was all in. He thought they were meant to be because they went to high school together and they found each other years later. Poor guy got taken for $5,000 because she was cheating on him the entire time with a young illegal chemical peddler, whom she married about a month after the breakup with a good dude she was with for 5 years. That marriage lasted 11 months and my niece is back living with my sister. Her reaction to all of this? Nothing good ever happens to me. It's like God hates me and wants me to suffer. What did I do to deserve such a terrible life? So my niece is a sociopath monster. Well done. What I am worried about is the daughter of that woman. I hope she grows up in a different environment. I'm not sure about you, but the stories in this video kind of creep me out. The good thing is, I have other videos that are cool and fun, so like this video and subscribe to my channel. When you're done watching this, check out my other videos too. Story 8. Not me, but a buddy of mine. He's the most criminal-minded dude I've ever met, but I've always just chalked that up to a rough upbringing. This dude always saw all the angles. He would casually identify and point out criminal acts other people were committing in broad daylight that escaped everyone else's notice. He could see malevolent motives in the most banal activities. He sold illegal substances for years, but would also work hard to mask his income behind a plausible veneer of legitimacy. Anyway, he and his girlfriend, another friend of mine, ended up having a set of Irish triplets who were super precocious. I was back home visiting once and he showed me this video from his home security cameras. It showed these 3 budding ne'er-do-wells coordinating an escape from their bedroom, piling up pillows and assisting one another over the baby gate. They wandered around silently, peeking around corners before making their way to the kitchen to retrieve silverware. They then proceeded to the hall closet where their toys were kept and using it to pry open the latch and get some toys, which they absconded with back to their room. They played around for about an hour before doing this all in reverse, covering up their tracks. But because his girlfriend was waking up from her nap, they didn't replace the silverware. My buddy said that after he saw the video, he checked under the eldest's bed and found 4 others. Story 9. At about 15 months old, my daughter was beginning her potty training phase. She discovered that we liked it when she whizzed in the potty, and she immediately decided the potty could be replaced by any container she could find. The next day, she delicately removed all the clothes from her dresser drawer, pulled out the drawer, then did it in said drawer. I never thought I'd pour whiz out of her dresser drawer before. 2 months later, she stacked toys on top of her high chair and climbed Mount Dangerous to get to the top of the fridge, where I was keeping a box of red velvet cake mix. She mixed it with water, ate some, decided she didn't like it, and began to rub it into her carpet. Her very white carpet. Rental home. She's older now, but she's still nuts. Story 10. When I was younger, my friend's little brother had a ton of psychotic tendencies. A couple of examples I remember are him putting their dog in a cooler and hurting it because it was annoying. Also, he once ran into my friend's mom, handed me a blade, went to the kitchen, cut his arm, and proceeded to tell his parents that I did it. What is even weirder is that even when they saw me holding a blade, they didn't believe him for a second. Well, about 3 years ago, he committed patricide, so I'd say he was and is a monster. Man, that was a very disturbing story. I hope that dude gets the help he needs. Story 11. Before my son could crawl, he learned how to climb the extra tall baby gate. Before he could walk, he climbed the windowsill. Before he could run, he climbed the bunk bed. Before he could open an applesauce container, he learned how to unlock the front door. I'm not sure what moment made me think, yep, he's a monster. It might have been when I almost witnessed Harambe too. I dove down for 10 seconds to tie his sister's shoe, and when I looked up, he had one leg over the barrier, ready to go say hello. Keys too, by the way. Or it might have been when I resigned myself to the leash. I brought it home, prepared for the protests. Instead, he declared himself a puppy dog, made his siblings play police with him for 2 hours while he sniffed out the bad guys, and then gleefully showed me how easy it was for him to take the damn thing off. I give up, guys. Story 12. Not my moment, but my aunt's moment. She married my uncle, he had 2 boys, she had a girl, and then they had another girl together. The oldest son was always really manipulative. He got into trouble but always weaseled his way out of it. He's an easy liar with some deep-seated issues. My aunt got him into counseling. They said he might have a personality disorder or maybe anger issues, and my aunt and uncle did everything they could for him. My aunt specifically refused to give up on him no matter what because he was one of her kids, even if it wasn't biological. He played them and his birth mom by causing problems and lying so he could get what he wanted. He got mad at my aunt and uncle a few years after they got married and demanded to go live with his biological mom, which they decided to agree to. He was supposed to leave at the end of the summer after a family camping trip. They argued right before they left in that trip because he wanted to take the Xbox and all its accessories from their house to his mom's. They told him no because it wasn't his. It belonged to all the kids. He didn't like that. He tried to hurt their daughter, his sister, in the lake, and when they stopped him, he tried to claim it was an accident. He tried to claim he accidentally trapped her under a clear water lounge chair and had no clue she was down there. No care or remorse. Since then, he's been to jail a few times. He's been officially diagnosed as a psychopath, and last I heard a few years ago, he was headed down the road to jail. My aunt was and still is heartbroken. Story 13. My son had gotten a plastic baseball bat from me and my wife as a gift. This plastic baseball bat wasn't just some weak plastic. It was pretty hard. Well, one day I walked outside to see my young daughter screaming and running from her brother, who was holding the baseball bat and whacking her wherever he could. He was wearing my jeans, had a bandana on, and had a baseball cap on backward. He kept calling himself a cool kid and wouldn't stop whacking her. I ran over and stopped him, and my wife took her daughter inside to get an ice pack. I took the bat away and asked him why he was hitting her. And this is exactly what he said. "Because I'm a cool kid, and cool kids show their siblings who's the leader, Daddy." He got grounded for a week, and after he was done with the grounding, he told me he was very sorry. He wasn't finished. A month later, I found him running around with a plastic sword and a ninja costume from Halloween and whacking my daughter again. I ran over, stopped him, and my daughter ran off. When I asked him why he hit her this time, he said, "Because it's fun." He got grounded for a very long time, and I realized then he needed counseling. He's now older. One night he came over for dinner and somehow past incidents were brought up. He denied the entire thing, even though before that he said he remembered counseling. I just hope he doesn't raise his newborn son to be a karate master or a gunslinger. Man, kids are scary. They're both hilarious and terrible at the same time. Story 14. My daughter said she doesn't like colored people. She was adamant about it. She just kept repeating it, and every time my heart hurt. I've tried very hard to raise her with diversity in her world and culture all around her and open-heartedness to everyone in the world. We also live in a racially problematic area, South Carolina, near the old plantations, and I've tried to be mindful of racial issues as I've raised her and tried hard to be intentional about raising her not to have prejudices. I was devastated when she said this. She kept saying, "I just don't like them at all." I turned my brain over and over trying to determine where I went wrong. I asked her to tell me why she felt like she didn't like them. She said they were ugly, which was even more disappointing, of course. Then she pointed at a white man across the street and said, "See, that guy should wear pink or red." That's when I realized colored people meant people wearing black shirts. Story 15. Many years ago, I started working for a guy who was a single dad with 2 boys. The older one was a nice kid. The younger one was a problem. Shoplifting, truancy, lying, etc. My boss warned me to keep my wallet and my person when he was around. One day he told me that when the boys were younger, he and his wife were delivering a couple of cars to a city that was a couple of days' drive away. They had pulled off the highway into the scrub to sleep for the night. In the morning, I found that someone had turned on the headlights of one car during the night and the battery was flat. He went out to the highway and eventually flagged down someone who had jumper leads and was willing to drive off into the scrub with a rough-looking stranger. They got the car started and the guy drove off. He left the car to take a leak and the younger son reached over and turned off the key. He said that was the moment when he realized that he had a problem child. I worked for him for a couple of years and moved on. About 10 years later, I met him in the street, and while we were talking, I asked about the boys. He told me that they were both living in one of his houses and hadn't paid rent in months. They were jobless. He was convinced that the younger one had led the older one into that lifestyle, and I had to agree with him. Story 16. I have a cousin who we call Satan because he's the most evil creature you could ever encounter. He once said that he wanted to end someone's life because it would be fun to watch. Let's call him M. Once while his mom and I were cleaning their house, M convinced his younger brother to drink a glass of Clorox bleach in one go. The poor kid took a large gulp of the glass and immediately realized that he shouldn't have done that. He had to undergo gastric lavage and suffered from serious burns, all while M was laughing. The sad part is that M's parents still think his behavior is acceptable because he doesn't know better, and they kept saying, "He'll grow out of it." Story 17. I've talked about this before, not me, but a good friend of mine. His stepson burned down their home, ending their pet dog and youngest child in the process. He almost ended the entire family, but everyone else managed to get out alive. It's a long, sad story. He was always a squirrely one, but no one thought he'd do anything like this, but since it happened, it's only gotten worse and worse. At this point, everyone, family, doctors, and cops, all agree on one thing. Either he's going to find an opportunity to do it again, or he's going to get locked up before it happens. Since then, he's become severely violent and says he will end everyone in his family eventually. He's been caught doing various things that I won't share because I'm not sure if the family would want them talked about. He's now bouncing in and out of mental asylums because something about the laws here means he's not allowed to stay in them. I don't know all the details. Everyone's just trying to do damage control and prevent him from doing anything terrible until he becomes legal and can be put away. He's been labeled a severe risk to everyone around him, and top psychologists have flown in to work with him. One of them said something along the lines of, "I've never seen such a young person display every sign of a sociopath." I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you made it this far, I'm sure you'll also enjoy Teachers, how do you know a child is a sociopath? Story 5 will make you wonder if you'd ever want to have children. See you on that video.